wonderful users like you guys. And governments like LA Metro or the city of Los Angeles, they have information that Waze doesn't have. For example, they know what closures will entail for the Los Angeles Marathon. They know where construction projects are taking place. So they have siloed data that we don't have, and we have siloed data that they don't have. So in 2013, or even before that, and I'll explain shortly, in 2012, we started brainstorming and thinking about what our cities would look like if this information was shared bilaterally. And the official program launched in 2014, but the story with Waze CCP really begins in 2012. It was during the time of Hurricane Sandy. There was information, and we sent it off to the White House, and they started working with the service stations and the gas trucks to deliver it to the most affected areas. And so this was in 2012. In 2013, we worked with the city of Rio de Janeiro. It was World Youth Day, and the Pope was coming to visit the city, so it was going to create, a lot of traffic, a lot of visitors, and a lot of stress on the city's infrastructure. And the city asked Waze if there was any way that we could work together to prepare for the upcoming World Youth Day. So a couple of Wazers went to the center in Rio de Janeiro and actually worked from inside of the Rio facility, helping to coordinate and exchange information with data, with Waze. So when World Youth Day came, we were already prepared because the Waze app had all the closures as provided by the city of Rio de Janeiro. We knew what the Pope schedule was going to be like, so we can redirect traffic according to the needs of the parade and of the event organizers. So you guys with me so far? Good, cool. In 2014, we officially launched the product, the partnership. We had 10 launch partners, one of them being the city of Los Angeles. And at the time of the announcement, Mayor Eric Garcetti said, quote, this partnership with Waze matches city data with the latest smartphone technology to get people where they want to go faster. This is exactly what our open data initiative is all about. October 2014, we have 10 launch partners. As of today, we have more than 250 across several countries. To give you an idea of what kind of partners we work with in these countries, here's a quick snapshot. We work with municipalities, counties, cities, and the like. We work with road authorities, like Department of Transportation, tollways, and we also work with emergency vehicles, nonprofits, private organizations, and nature reserves. Again, the point being that they have this wonderful data, we have this wonderful data, and who better to be abreast and tell us about what's going on in the cities than the citizens themselves. Here's an example of some of the other initiatives that we have going on. So, that's the basic overview of what the Waze CCP program is like. But now, let's talk about how it actually works. So, the most important information for Waze to receive is construction and closures. And sometimes if you're an entity in Northern California, sports parades, championship parades are also part of the information we would love to receive because only the cities know that. So we get this information, and it can be provided in any number of ways. There's a live feed API. We have a road closure tool. We also have a partner Google form where people, whomever worked with us, can just submit that information on a Google Doc, upload it, and within a couple hours, our team in Israel has their hands on this information and can make an immediate upgrade or update to the Waze map. And you can also email whatever information is pertinent to closures@google.com. It again gets received by one of our CCP staff members, and within a couple of minutes, an update is made to the Waze map. Now, here we go. There we go. So like I mentioned, the most important aspect of this is getting the closures and the accident reports, because it's stuff that some of these cities do not have at their disposal. And some of these user-reported incidents include accidents, traffic jams, hazards, constructions, potholes, and roadkill. To highlight an example of what cities are doing with this information from Waze, let's take it back to 2015 and Jose Colon. He is the DC's DOT's Chief Information Officer. And he explained about how, DC has a major problem with potholes. So I think in 2015 there was about 10,000 reported potholes that people submitted via 311 or through manual submission on the internet. But what happened was after they started partnering with or became a partner of the CCP program, the DC Metro received in 1 month about 10,000 pothole reports that came via Waze. And the way that to receive Waze data is pretty straightforward. You can get it through a Lightgate API. We have a traffic view tool on our website that allows you to see what the information is pertaining to. And you can also sign up for email alerts. And we also have other services, like we have unusual traffic reports, or you can subscribe to private Twitter accounts that tell you if there's unusual activity in your city or your area. So now let's take a look at what the actual impact has been in the Waze CCP program. How many of you guys have been to Jakarta? So you guys can vouch that traffic there is pretty terrible. So the city has about 2 million commuters per day. Yeah, you thought the 405 was bad. In Jakarta, this traffic amounts to 15 billion in cost each and every year. And they became in context, they're one of the first Waze CCP partners. And since they've been working with Waze, they've seen a reduction of 19% in travel time. One of my favorite examples is in Rio de Janeiro. We spoke before about World Youth Day in 2013. The following year, they had to prepare for the World Cup, and in 2016, they had the Olympics come into town. So again, a lot of stress in the infrastructure, 6.3 million people, 1 million Olympic visitors. Because of the information they had, and of course, through other aspects as well, their own consultants, their own data sets, they built 3 new highways to alleviate some of this traffic, and this led to a 27% decrease in congestion. In regards to emergency responses, 63% of 911 callers do not know their location. And every year on Waze, there's about 30,000 crashes reported per day, about 30,000 crashes reported in the app. And 70% of crashes are reported on Waze before they are actually called into 911. And all these factors taken together amount to a 4-minute reduction in emergency response time. And again, this is the power of what happens when private and public sectors exchange data sets for the benefit of its citizens. So in regards to this, what happens next? What is the next steps for the ongoing Waze CCP engagement? Well, as always, the app is trying to save you guys time. As of now, it's about 4.5 minutes that we are saving per day. Waze incident ingestion reduces emergency response times in 70% of cases, saving Wazers like yourselves an average of 4.5 minutes. And on a widespread level, we're seeing an average of about an 18% reduction in congestion. A few other examples, to take a step back, I mentioned that we have about 250 partners. There's a lot of amazing stories of how this program has helped cities. I mentioned the Pothole Palooza in Washington, D.C., the Olympics, and even to some extent the World Cup in Brazil. There's Jakarta as well. And it's not just, and the impact that we're having on cities isn't just in this data exchange, it's also in advanced partnerships or honing in on what makes each city's challenges is unique. For example, in Sao Paulo, again, everyone thinks they have terrible traffic. Sao Paulo's up there as well. They're probably my least favorite city in regards to traffic, only because I once spent 3 hours to go 2 kilometers in the city. So that's up there for me. So anyways, in Sao Paulo, because there is so much traffic, they have what they call rodizio, which is a license plate rotation. So on certain days, depending on what numbers your license plate ends in, you're not allowed to drive. And Waze incorporated a feature where, depending if you enter the last 2 digits of your license plate, not driver's license. I have to read your mind, just moved back to California, that's why it's top of mind. But if you enter the last 2 digits of your license plate, the app will tell you if your route conflicts with the license plate routing. So again, this is an example of a very localized feature specific to a city, specific to a country, and how we incorporate it into the Waze application to make the commute just a bit easier. The next iteration, or perhaps the next challenge ahead is, and I was mentioning this to some of the guys earlier, is taking the same approach to data and tackling a new challenge. I don't know how many of you guys know, but last month, Waze launched in June, Waze launched a new app called Waze Sparkle. It was previously only available in the Bay Area and Tel Aviv, but as of June 6th, it's now available across the state. And the big data challenge for Waze Sparkle is, how do you match riders that either live in the same area or are traveling to the same location? How do you match them and incentivize them to share a ride? And it's something that we're very proud of, and it's something that has the attention of everyone in the company. And we hope that by taking the same approach to carpool as we did with our Connected Citizens program, that we'll be able to add more value to a citizen's daily life. Because if core Waze wanted to save you time when you on every drive, and the Waze CCP program wanted to make you smarter about your surroundings, well, what Waze Carpool wants to do is it wants to reconnect you with those around you and find a way to take vehicles off the road, because ultimately traffic is a vehicle problem. And if we can hone that in and find ways to work together, then it'll make everyone's day just a bit easier. So guys, thank you so very much for your time. I've left a few minutes for questions, so please don't be shy, and thank you for spending your afternoon with me. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here at USC, so thank you. So our question is, if we look at what each program plays in reducing the time of congestion, whether it's the government's information or Waze's information. So I think it's a combination of both. So some of the case studies we have, like around the city of Boston, is we were able to look at, by adopting or increasing the use of Waze, we're able to disperse traffic at a much more efficient level. And then we're able to compare, year over year. If the average wait time in traffic a year ago was X and now this year is Y, then we can attribute the change to the programs implemented by not only Waze, but by the city of Boston as well. Got it. So the key with the information that we exchange with our cities or municipalities, it's all anonymous data that's already available via the Waze app. So even if there was an accident reported on the app, you still have to call it in. If you need support. So it's not like they're watching us in real time, because that would be, nobody wants that. But it's just that because they have information like alerts and potholes and accidents, they can adjust to it at a future date.
Yeah, with Waze Sparkle, curious, the first encounter that people have with carpooling with one another, is it during carpool, or is there an opportunity for that to like beforehand, or?
Great question. So there is an opportunity. So his question, if you can hear it, is if the first interaction on Waze Sparkle between rider and driver is at the moment of the pickup. Great question. And we encourage them to message one another and to communicate via the app before the first pickup. So that way you can either say like, hey, I'm actually going to be 5 minutes late, or I'll meet you at the Shell station instead of my office because I need to go pick something up. So it encourages interaction before the first pickup. How we encourage people to share their data? Oh, to share rides. Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. That's something that we're still thinking through, because it depends on it depends on who we're speaking with. If you're a student at USC, it's your freshman year, you're waiting for that financial aid check to come, then the push of saving a couple of dollars on every ride is much more important to you than it would be for, say, an executive from Google. But if you're an executive at Google, for example, then the fact that you might save 10 minutes by having an extra passenger and thus being able to use the HOV lane, well, that's a bigger trigger pull for you as opposed to saving a couple of bucks. So we're still working on our messaging just to make sure that we're, being contextually relevant to each one of our audiences. So to give you an example, there was, I'm from Northern California originally, so I always take the Altamont back to see my parents, and from a couple of miles back, I started to see on Waze, I was the passenger. And by the way, safe driving, don't use the app, don't use any app while you're the driver. Waze has voice command features for a reason, so feel free if you are driving to command that your voice. So anyways, if, so I was from a few miles behind, I could see that there was an accident upcoming on the app, so I could already prepare myself to slow down and to make the necessary moves. So what will happen is that the more users report it, because as soon as I drove by, there'll be a pop-up that says, accident reported here, can you confirm? And again, if you're the passenger, you hit confirm, and that just reinforces the geographical location of where that accident was made. So what happens is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 Wazers make the same report in the same area, then the chances are it's pretty accurate. And then the great thing too is let's say the accident's been cleared up, there is no longer a hazard on the road. What'll happen is as soon as the next person approaches that, they'll get a pop-up that says, there's an accident here, yes or no. They reply that no, there is not an accident, and as soon as like 2 or 3 more people do that, that disappears from the map and it's updated in real time.
It has that built-in feature where it tracks speed. I know it's not necessarily always accurate, but I can see a case being made to sell that data to certain, law enforcement to either, ticket or improve. If they found that on average people were going 10 miles over the speed limit on a specific road, maybe they need to adjust the speed limit in that area. Is there any thing happening in that realm right now?
So I'll make your Saturday great. There's no plans for that. Like all the information that we share with our partners is all available. It's all anonymous, and Waze is a Google company, so it takes a lot of, it works very hard to make sure everything is secure, that nothing gets out that we don't want to. I mean, we take privacy very, very seriously, and that's why the information we provide is all anonymous, and it's information that Wazers already provide. And luckily, we have an ad platform where we work with brands like Taco Bell and Dunkin' Donuts, and because that's been a successful component of the Waze history, it allows us to not have to sell data and instead just focus on working with cities and municipalities to make our cities safer and smarter.
So what do you think are recommendations for around that alternatives around a lot of people also towards the alternative route and then sort of create a traffic jam in one road that's already clear. So is there a way that you guys get that or send some people to validate
So your question is, how do you determine where to send people to reduce traffic? Because if you're sending people to the same area, then is there just going to be a traffic jam on this street instead of the one we were at before? And it's kind of a complicated question, just because no 2 drives are the same. So you and I might both pass through Pico, but you're actually going to Pasadena, and then I'm going in the completely opposite direction. So even though we could both be on the same street to avoid traffic, it might make more sense for me to take a different side street to get to my destination. And so the algorithm is becoming, or the Waze backend is becoming, more and more intelligent. The more we use it, the more information that we share. And I think so far it's done a pretty good job of mitigating some of those risks. But it's not perfect, and there are times when I've taken a Waze recommended route, and next thing you know, I've missed my exit and tacked on another 20 minutes. But overall, it's done a pretty good job. And the fact that our user base in Los Angeles keeps growing tells us that we're along the right track. Follow up?
Yeah, so how much information do you share with Google Maps and then trying to get Waze
So her follow-up is about, if Waze data feeds into Google Maps and if we've ever done any comparisons on both of the apps to see which one can get you there faster. And so Google Maps does receive a bit of Waze data, and that's done mostly from a partnership perspective because there are many users that use Google Maps that have never heard of Waze. So if they're using Google Maps to drive and they see that an accident was reported via Waze, then they might be more inclined to check that app out. And at least internally, we view them as very complementary apps because Google Maps is fantastic for a variety of things. How to get to the metro, how to find the nearest restaurant, how to drive to Disneyland. It does a lot of things well. What Waze does well is just driving. Like you would never use Waze, hopefully, to go walking somewhere or to hop on your bike. But it does do driving directions well, and that's why they're both very complementary. In terms of comparisons, I know that some outlets, I think it was ABC News, has done comparisons with a variety of driving apps, but at least internally we've never done that because we're a happy family. Yes. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, interesting. Yes.
You were mentioning about the potholes in DC, and I was there about that in a year. And what I found was that Waze would come up and say there's a pothole, we drive by and there's a pothole. So what I'm wondering is, you already said that you're not feeding anything back to the municipality saying it's pothole that is indicated by the driver's consent. And it's also probably an issue that municipalities are not updating their system in real time, so you're constantly reapplying that there's potholes. That's correct.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a challenge to follow up with some of these things, and it's not a perfect system by any means, but overall it's been a net positive. And but to your point, there are instances where you read about a pothole or you see that there's a pothole notice and there isn't one there. Hopefully it's because it's already been fixed, and then just a matter of getting a little bit better each and every time in terms of cleaning that information and updating it so that those potholes won't be there for when people drive by that know existing potholes. Any more questions? Yes.
So I noticed that you have the ability to determine the indicate that something is a protest rather than some other kind of action that would be interrupting traffic. And sometimes protests are planned in advance and they have permits in the way. I believe I witnessed such a protest the other day. There was police escorts. It was very crowded and still very orderly. So it was slowing down traffic, but probably in a different way than some spontaneous protests I've seen in road. Outside of users reporting potential protests, are there other ways for Waze to find that out? Like, does Waze also pull human gathering permits from the city, or get information elsewhere about planned protests?
It really depends on the source because I'm sure that if we look on the internet, there could be a dearth of sources that tell us about protests. But the most important thing is to check the validity of it. So if it comes from an official source, like an official partner, so let's say that there's a planned protest tomorrow at USC, and USC has pulled Waze, well, we're more likely to take that seriously as opposed to a Reddit thread, right? And so the most important thing is first and foremost, like, is this information coming from a CCP partner? Okay, if not, is it coming from a reputable partner? If not, then okay, well, let's just wait and see, because the last thing we want to do is, prepare for something that in actuality might not happen, and then it'll make people's commutes more challenging instead of the opposite. Last question, yes? If the Google speed alert from Google Maps came from Waze. Good question. I don't believe so, but I'm happy to follow up with you on that. I'm not actually sure. All right, guys, well, I'll be hanging out, so if you have any more questions or anything else you want to ask me offline,